a user-friendly, web-based, computerized software program that we call Microsoft SharePoint, with inputs from various individuals like Mr. Granado, Mr. Santillan, Ms. Busiak, Mr. Vela, and I. The program was modified to satisfy our needs in order to identify and accomplish each department's 5-year CIP. Now, the CIP will be reviewed and updated yearly. Requests not funded on the first year will be identified and move over to the following year or years. Department training for the usage of the software is scheduled for this Thursday. Once the 5-year CIP is completed, it will be presented to the City Commission. At the same time, when we present the CIP to the City Commission, obviously we're going to get some input from the City Commission as to what projects they desire to be added to the program. What's a CIP? A capital improvement program is a short-range plan. In our case, it's a 5-year plan, which identifies the capital needs, includes the capital equipment. It provides a planning schedule and identifies options for financing the plan. It provides various benefits. It allows for systematic evaluation of all potential projects at the same time. It has the ability to stabilize debt and consolidate projects to reduce borrowing costs. It serves as a public relations and economic development tool, and it focuses on preserving the city's infrastructure while ensuring the efficient use of public funds. The CIP will include the following information: a listing of the capital projects or equipment to be acquired from year 1 to year 5, that's from 2015 through 2019. We will rank the projects in the order of priority, or the ones that are most needed. The plan of financing obviously can be used. There are several financing tools that we can use. We can use general obligation bonds, where we take it to the voters. There are, that we've done in the past, certificates of obligation. It doesn't require voter approval. We've issued tax notes in the past. We've did some of the funding or to pay us on the debts through user fees, service fees, and most recently we were using the airport's PFCs to pay some of the debt that was just recently issued for the airport. That's the passenger facility charges. Of course, we also used the CDBG in the past, and that was for the linear part. This is an entitlement. It's not necessarily a grant that we went to the City Commission. We got funding for that. We can use federal and state grants. In the past, we also used sales tax revenues from the GBIC, and in this case, they went ahead and we borrowed $6 million, and through the sales tax from GBIC, that debt is being paid off. We also have the BCIC certificates of obligation that was used for the sports park, and of course it will also have justification for each project. As we move forward, we always look at the property tax. What is the property tax going to do when we start borrowing money? And for instance, in 2014, the allocation for debt service, the 70 cents, 23.39 was earmarked for debt service, and 66 was for the general fund. On the far right of this particular slide, it shows the tax rates from 2005 all the way to 2014. In 2012, we increased the tax rate 6.5%. It went from 65 cents to 70 cents. It's been more or less the same rates for the last few years. I'm going to go very rapidly here. Obviously, we keep a debt service fund. Debt service fund is used to retire all our debt that we have. But I'd like to point out at the very bottom of this schedule, or this slide, it shows the fund balances in the debt service fund. As you can tell, in 2012, we had $3.3 million. Then we had $3.8 million. These are all monies in reserve. We went ahead and used some of the excess funds that we had in 2013, and we reduced for 2014, and so as a result, our fund balance estimated for 2014 is $2.080 million. And the reason why we did this is we allocated, since we have the same tax rate, we allocated more funds, or more of a tax rate, to the general fund, and we reduced the debt service rate. And the reason for that is that we did have some available funds in the debt service fund that we were able to use this, and as a result, we went ahead and balanced the general fund budget. As you can see here on the between the general fund and debt service, the rates between each year, it has been growing between in the general fund 43 in 2012, then 44, 45, and almost 47 cents in 2014. Again, the tax rate remains the same, but the distribution between the debt service fund and the general fund changes every year. As we move to 2014, we know that we went ahead and used some of that. We reduced the tax rate for debt service. We know that in the future we're going to have to raise that rate for debt service. We made an estimate as to how much money it would require out of our tax rate to pay $10 million. If we were to issue $10 million today, we would increase the tax rate for debt service at 1.3 cents. This is the general fund. General fund is, as you can tell here, our fund balances have grown. We are obviously putting more money into the general fund. As you can see, property taxes, 23 million in 12, 25 million in 13, and 26 million in 14. We did have a growth in the tax roll, about 3%, but we're also allocated more money from the tax rate to general fund operations. What have we done since 91? We've actually had three elections that I can recall. In 86, we had a bond issue. We had a bond issue in 91, and we also had a bond issue in 2001. Since then, we have issued 224,273,657. And that was on the general obligation bonds was for 91 and the 2001 bond issue. And then we had 158,785 in CLs, and we also had some tax notes of 2,065,000. This survey or this analysis shows the property tax rate all the way from 91 to 2014, and it also has the tax rate and the growth in the tax roll by year. We had very slow growth in 2010, 2011, 2012. We saw an increase in 2013 and 2014. But if you go in the past, we had some very nice growth. For instance, in 2002, we had 12.03 as far as an increase in the tax roll. We also saw in 2005, we had an increase of 12.19 and then 15%. That was a tremendous growth in 2007. And as you can see later on when the recession hit, the growth was not as strong as in the past. I point this out because when we had in 1986, when we went to actually 1991 rather, when we had that bond issue, we went to we got a rating, and our rating at that time, because our fund balance was so low that it was so low that we had actually less than $100,000 in our fund balance when we issued some of the debt. And when we visited the rating agencies, obviously we were placed on a credit watch, and our rating for Moody's was a Baa1. And we've talked about this in the past. Since then, because of our strong fund balances, our rating is now a Aa3, which is high quality for Moody's, and a AA- for Standard & Poor's, and Fitch ratings is a AA-. Just recently, I read about the country of Mexico. Moody's gave them an A-, so we're above the country of Mexico as far as ratings. What is our debt? Is going forward right now, we owe $161,690,000. But of that $161,690,000, $9,102,000 is from self-supported debt, and there are several items that we pay some of the debt, and that's from the Resaca, Paseo de la Resaca, the Linear Park, which is a CDBG. We have the BCIC Sports Park, the airport improvements that's being paid by JIBIC, and then most recently the airport extension that's being paid on the PSCs. So $9,102,000 is not tied into to the property tax. And these are all schedules tied into that schedule that I just came up with. So I guess to end the presentation, and we'll be working at it. We're going to be looking at it from now through on. This is a nice. I'll go ahead and read it. And there's a citizen that comes to the city commission. I represent the citizens of this fair city or fair land. And I have a list of grievances from the people. We want better schools. Oh, Commission says, fair enough. Better roads? Sure, okay. Better housing? Why not? What are you smiling for? I was looking for some reason to raise taxes. I might as well, and then the citizen says, I might as well scratch that off my list. Anyway, as we move forward with the capital improvement, we're going to have to look at what can we afford. And the majority of the years that we've actually gotten projects has been through the issuance of debt. We just don't have the funds from operations to do any major capital expenditures. So what we've done in the past, so what do we need to do to increase that or to change that? Obviously, we need to increase our tax base, and hopefully with acquiring more retail area, more commercial area to our area, we can increase our property tax rolls, increase the tax base, at the same time generate more sales tax. As we have told you before in the past, we do not generate enough sales tax. We could generate more sales tax. We could probably pay some of these projects that we are indeed completely in debt of through the general operations without issuing debt. So that's something that we're going to need to strive for, and that's what we're looking for, to generate more sales tax by hopefully attracting some more retail businesses to our area. At the same time, we attract more retail business to our area. We not only help the 4A or the Type A, the Type B, but at the same time, we increase the tax roll. The tax roll is very important.
Pete, let me, if I could, make a couple of comments. The first thing is I noticed that group, which is a very fine group of people that contributed to the capital improvement plan, but I would suggest that at PUB, when we're doing capital improvement plans, they actually have an outside group that comes and helps, and they've been really good as far as a workshop. I don't know whether you attended. I know Charlie went to one. And it's kind of like a workshop with the entire board. And it includes sort of like a facilitator or someone else besides just the city employees. And so I think that instead of, just kind of getting the feedback, I think pretty much every one of these commissioners here knows some of the areas that we need to address. And instead of doing it later while you first compile something and then present it so that we can add to it, why don't we do it all together at the same time? Get someone who, as a city planner, will allow us to give us an idea. I think I talked to Gail about this. I mean, it's one of those issues that, what streets need to be maintained, what streets need to be added. I think some of you all might know. I mean, there's been people say, can we go on 6th and 7th Street? I mean, there's a lot of issues, and some of the developers have. I see, my good friends in the realty department that the moving of the rail is important. Now, when is that going to happen? I think it's got to entail a little bit more input from the community through the commissioners and through the community itself. I don't see anything wrong with Dutch or anybody else showing up, because I think if you're going to project sales tax, you're going to have to figure out, hey, what businesses are going to go there? Who is he looking to bring what kind of business, and what kind of business do they generally generate? And when you look at the tax base, you got to look at what properties are you going to develop, and what kind of commercial, residential, what can you reasonably expect from all that? And so you're going to have to kind of really plan for the future. I think a 5-year plan is great, but I think a 5, 10, 15, 20-year plan is even better. And you have the university coming in here with their folks doing their planning. I don't really know all their planning, but I think it would be imperative upon all of us to get together with the port, with the airport, with the spaceport, and really do a comprehensive plan for the future, and at least have a conversation, if nothing else, to at least get a map for the future. And so when Gail and I talked some time back, I was going I know there's computer programs out there that tells us if we input it, what streets are we maintaining, what streets, how long is the shelf life of a maintenance, what do we need to improve, and where else are we going to have roads, work with the MPO, and work with the economic development group. I think it's got to be a little bit more, inclusive, so that everybody gets in the act and everybody sits there and says, you know what? I mean, I happen to have the luxury in some ways, and in some ways, maybe somebody could look at it differently, but every time the Economic Development Group talks to someone, they come by my office, I say hello. Sometimes some of the commissioners get a chance to visit with them, and sometimes they don't. But it just sort of depends on what needs to be done. But I think it's going to have to be a little bit more comprehensive. At least that's my take, and I invite the commissioners to have their input as well.
Well, I would say that as a commissioner, it's very hard to be presented with a document after it's already done and understand or even be able to comment in many cases, because I have no insight into how the document was derived. So I agree that rather than be presented with a document after it's done, I would favor being involved in the creation of the document, because otherwise it's not fair. It's not fair to the people. It's not fair to the commission to be able to have a reasonable, intelligent comment about that. And the future is different now than it has ever been before, with all of the things that are happening here. And I feel that we need to do it
That's our
a
plan.
bit differently.
That is our plan. We don't want to come in just asking you, okay, with one meeting, this is it, approve it or disapprove it. We certainly want to have dialogue between us and the city commission and somebody else, if it's a committee that you want to set up. That's
What you said was, I'm sorry, what I heard, maybe I heard it wrong, you said you were going to finish the document and then present it to us for approval. I'm saying that we need to be involved with the creation of the document to begin with.
Okay.
And I would suggest, and I don't mean to be impertinent in any sort of way, but you have some great resources in this town. I mean, you have an economic development group with a great executive committee and a great board that deals with a lot of issues. I would suggest you reach out to them and see if they would like to kind of have any input as to what type of industry they're looking to attract. And now that you got that 550 industrial corridor, I would suggest that you get together with the Brujak and Fernando and Leandro. They're running a great shop out there. They're the second lowest utility company. The rates are the second lowest in the state of Texas, probably in the nation. They are very well organized, and they have some good groups that could help us as well. And a lot of times I work through them to try to see how they can, give us little hints from Heloise, if you would, so that we can kind of, not have to incur a lot of expense for additional consultants, but because once they get into that group saying, listen, I do the same thing with a college. Hey, they're already paying you good money over there. I'm just trying to hang on for a little bit of it and just, charge me just a little bit and let's add to the conversation. And I think it's a good way to go about it. But I would get with Charlie, and I would get with John Bruzek, and I would get with Jason and Gil out of the Economic Development Group. Maybe talk to Keith Ewells. I mean, let's bring a conversation that's active, and let's do it now, if you would, so that we don't have to go back and, let's say, reinvent the wheel at a later date. John, I think you wanted to say something.
No, I'm just agreeing with everything the mayor has said. That way we don't, down the road, realize we left something important out. So I'm in 100% agreement.
My understanding is the engineering department has already made a major step by hiring these consultants to identify some of these streets that need construction. It's a $200,000 study, and my understanding, I know Jeff is not here, but he has seen the project, he's in the program. It identifies, with the video, it identifies some of the needs that we have, and of course the majority of the needs that we have in the city is the streets. The majority of complaints that we get in our office, in my office, is streets. When are you going to do my streets? That's the number one complaint that we get. And we've already started that. We already have that in motion. It's going to be expensive. Just the study itself costs $200,000. So just a comment that I like.
The study is just finishing, and we're fine tuning it, but we should be able to.
Well, I understand what you guys are doing. I'm telling you, the conversation ought to be inclusive of all these wonderful folks that you got sitting here, not doing something autonomously and then bringing it before the commission. you have to understand, you have to open your doors to everybody. There's a lot of great folks that are sitting out there that have a lot of great, needs and wants and desires, and they want to hear their voices out there. Streets are important because that's what gets you from one place to the other. But we're riding a lot of bicycles, we're doing a lot of walking, and we have to prioritize, and we have to have a little professional help. I mean, I could pretty much, take a look at go walk down the streets, and I can tell you which ones need help. But it's just like you said, we can't afford to do everything at the same time. So we have to figure out which is the last street that we worked on. If we haven't worked on the street for 20 years, maybe that one should take priority. Are we looking at the east over there in that side of town? Are we looking at the west side of town? What are the possibilities of what do we do, and how do we not let those things get behind? And again, I'm not being presumptuous that I know how to do this. I'm just saying that it needs to have an open conversation with as many people at the table as we can possibly hear, so that we get a better view of this whole deal, as opposed to being handed a document to comment on afterwards. I would suggest that we allow this commission to get involved from now.
And I agree with everything that everybody has said, but also from city staff's perspective, they have actually done more than their fair share in pushing these projects forward. I believe I'm the only one that's seen the study or the preview of the study that they're talking about, and it is a very extensive and elaborate online database that requires for them to learn completely new software. I just saw this last week, primarily because I was nagging, and they finally said, okay, here it is. It's still very rough, but it is something that they're working on. And what I can say from my personal experience, one of the things that I talked about yesterday with the health department was thinking about buying some sort of electronic app that would help us have our agendas on the iPad. And just right now, I was approached by one of the media services personnel or staff members that already made those improvements, and you'll see in the iPad right now that if you click on any of these little sections, it's fixed that problem to where we'll be able to go back and forth. So I believe they are doing their part in economizing and giving us more bang for our buck. Maybe the problem here is lack of communication with everyone. And so maybe I know about something, but maybe Commissioner Tetrow doesn't.
Also, we have to understand that a CIP is a working document that can be changed any minute. It's not just going to be sit there and that's going to be it.
Right, but
we're going to change as we go along.
I think what we're all trying to say is that we just want to be included more often. And so if there's a way that we can circumvent quorum issues and have more workshops and figure that out, then that's what we would like.
And Pete, don't take this as a criticism. I promise you, I cherish the work that you do and the contributions that you make to the city. This is not about that. This is about a process that needs to be having an open mind to be able to listen to people like Romeo or Carlo or anybody else. It's okay to listen, and it's okay to have a conversation. You don't get threatened by it, okay? Anybody who gets threatened by it doesn't have a whole lot of self-confidence in what they're doing, and you have plenty of self-confidence. So I'm telling you, I would like to figure out, I don't know what you were talking about. I had never heard of that, but communication goes a long way.
I think, if I could real quick, I would just like to stop and give city staff credit, because I know that from day one, anytime I have picked up the phone and called Pete or Charlie with any question, regardless of whatever time it was, I'm always answered immediately, and if the information is not with you, you get it to me immediately. And so I'd like to participate in this process, but I would like to stop and just give you credit, because I know that you have dedicated a lot of years to the city, and with all due respect, I think that you guys are amazing and a huge asset to the city. So I just wanted to say that.
We appreciate that, and I think everyone's correct. That we are just initiating this, and we did want a lot of input from the commission. Obviously, participation from you and other entities is important. and we are going to fulfill that request.
We also have to understand that you have a plan, a CIP. And one of you or some of us may come up with an idea. Hey, maybe we should do this. Maybe we should do. And that's when we change the CIP. At that moment, we change it. And we go along from year to year making changes. Because sometimes expenditures or a project that comes in this particular year, you never thought of it a year ago. And all of a sudden it surfaces and you've got to plan for it and you've got to allocate money for it. And I'm talking about a capital project. It's not a CIP, just a little plan that we hopefully to use as we move forward. But there will be amendments, there will be changes year to year. It's not a solid, concrete document.
No, but it gives you a pretty good game plan. I mean, you know,
Mayor, we did this several years ago. It was this detail. This detail. It gives you every information. And that's what we're trying to do. But again, we are going to be presenting it to you with the idea that we're making changes as we go along. This is not going to be, that's it. It's not. And we understand that. You understand that.
yeah. Well, you know, we won't belabor the point, but suffice it to say that I think it's imperative that we communicate. And the second thing is I think we need to involve everybody. And let's get it started with the process with everybody that, you know, is bringing something positive and productive needs to be at the table. Do we go to B? Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, sir.